NYPD detective who has multiple civilian complaints against him from when he was in the NYPD in Queens.
Right.
Most of those have to do with over-policing, stop and frisk,
No.
over-policing of black and brown communities. And I should say, and excessive use of force are among those accusations. And I should say that even the police department in New York found 3 of those accusations to be substantiated, which is truly remarkable. So this individual now heads a very powerful security apparatus, I would call it. And to drive home how much this has changed things, they now surveil the social media content of students and faculty. They have confiscated the phones of most of the people who were arrested on May 1st into May 2nd. And we have direct evidence, hard evidence, that they are using sophisticated technology to crack the passwords of those phones and search them illegally in violation of the Fourth Amendment. This is equipment that is expensive. Mm-hmm. It's not just some cop trying to type in passwords and guessing our birthdays. These are passwords. One password that was cracked has 14 characters to it, including numbers, letters, and symbols. And we have hard evidence that they were able to crack that password and gain access to that individual's iCloud account in order to retrieve the data on their phone for a violation, which is a petty offense. It's not even a criminal offense. There's no crime to investigate here. And they almost certainly could not get a warrant to do that, and therefore they are violating the Fourth Amendment.
So you have an illustration of the connection between technology and control.
Article 2.13.
And we see it, and so Stony Brook University can be called a testing ground for the limits and the effectiveness of this type of equipment. If it proves to be successful, it can be introduced into society as a whole, which of course will be wholly dependent upon the benefit from the election of an authoritarian who will help enable. This is quite a massive situation. That's why it's so significant.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, if you allow the police to do this, just because you don't agree with the pro-Palestinian protesters, then you give them that authority. And when they try and pass a federal law that makes abortion illegal in all the states, and there's protests in defense of Planned Parenthood, you can rest assured they will use the same approaches to break up those protests. And that's true for any topic that you can think of. When unions decide to protest against unfair or intolerable living conditions and working conditions, and workers strike or have a picket line, you can rest assured that if you let Suffolk County Police or University Police obtain this power in violation of our Constitution, they will use those same powers against other groups as well.
Of course, we had a little experience along those lines when what amounted to a manifestation of this growing mechanism of population control was in our midst as our congressman. And when he was running for his second term, several of us decided that we should infiltrate the group that was assembling in the Elks building down there in Smithtown. Not to do anything other than to perhaps have a word, to have an opportunity to say something. And I was only able to get within 20 feet of the building when they said, "You cannot come in here." I said, "What are you talking about? I'm a constituent. It doesn't matter. You cannot come in here." How do you know that I can't come in here? I haven't even reached the doorstep yet. See, they were testing this stuff out right then and there.
Yeah.
And it shows now that it not only is, I can understand a bit of that going on, at least in the setting, in the political setting. But when you move it into the university, it becomes obvious that it's a testing ground to perfect the system. And then when you take the opposition, if you will, one of the many opposing forces, and you blow up all of their universities, you certainly give yourself a pretty good start on who's going to control who. So So here we are. Now, how do you personally stand in connection? And what happened? This interested me too.
Yeah.
Suddenly, it's not Suffolk County that's in on the deal. Now it's the governor, Hochul. I call her Holcomb, Governor Holcomb. It's her and the state police. Where do you stand, and what was that all about?
Yeah.
What can you say about that? Let me not put you on the
It's very
spot.
interesting that the university made the decision to allow the state troopers on campus. I don't know if that was imposed from Albany by the governor or if President McGinnis called for it. But yeah, there were, people can look on social media, there's lots of videos available. They marched in military formation. I don't know how many they were, 100, 200 police officers. It was a large number. And they were rough.
Yeah, they're rough.
There was not one person resisting arrest. And I saw students who were calmly participating in civil disobedience, cooperating with civil disobedience, who were just thrown to the ground and kneeled on by multiple officers. And students have sent me pictures of horrible bruising on their bodies, on their arms and legs from that encounter with the police. So I don't know who ordered that, but it really is an escalation.
Well, now you understand
a protest that was entirely
Nazism.
peaceful.
Now
I
you
also want to
understand
say that
Nazism.
the university has mischaracterized these students
But
and
then they
doesn't know
said
them,
defund
doesn't
the
want to know
police.
them. The university has made claims that they were increasingly intimidating towards other students, that there was rampant anti-Semitism, that there were outside agitators. None of that is true. I have spent a good deal of time with these students. They know I'm Jewish, and they have welcomed me warmly. There are Jewish student protesters amongst the group organizing that encampment and the protests. They have rules for engagement to be involved in the protest, and the rules include no anti-Semitism, no Islamophobia, no misogyny, no sexual harassment, no anti-queer rhetoric, and no engagement with counter-protesters. And I have seen at least one case where a student showed up with a T-shirt that said, "I stand with Israel," and they came there either to observe or maybe to be confrontational. And the students involved in the encampment simply ignored this person. They moved away. Now, have there been anti-Semitic acts and statements on campus? The administration claims so, and I believe there probably have been. We know there's a rise in anti-Semitism and in anti-Islamic rhetoric and behavior. But when the university does a bait and switch, they say there's been anti-Semitic statements and behavior and actions on campus, and then they use that as a pretext to break this protest, or try to. But they have not shown that the anti-Semitic acts and behavior came from the protest. And as a person who spent a lot of time there, I just haven't seen it.
You haven't seen it, yeah. What struck me is being there on at least two occasions. I wasn't there on the first occasion when that happened back on March 26th, but I've been there ever since. And I would be classified as an outside agitator, not part of the group within. They're so skilled in dividing. That stratification effort always works so effectively. Yeah. I saw no people, very few. We have a hell of a job getting anybody to come out to anything that we do. So if we had a bunch of people come in because they wanted to be outside agitators, I'd be happy because I could coach them into modifying their behavior just to be there. So the point is, I would have been put in that category as being an outsider who shouldn't be there and part of the problem. Whereas I am there to bond with those people who are recognizing the basic motivating factors. And they're the woke generation, and thank God they are.
Yep.
Guys, 1 second. I'm gonna agitate just for a second here.
We have to reset.
And then we need to reset, but can we just quickly do a reset here? I'm gonna put a little music on for about 30 seconds or so, and we'll come right back to this. And